strong convection with lots and lots of ice. So, and that's what we are observing here. And I'll just wrap up here. So transpiration is important in determining the duration of the rainy season, frequency of the rainfall, and also determining the types of clouds. And land use probably influence the precipitation pattern. And then further change in temperature and land use in the future will probably influence the hydrological cycle over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We learned lots of the intricacies about the climate change. It's not as simple as you think. So, if anyone has questions for Jung, there were many technical aspects that were very interesting. I'm sure many people are curious about water, which is yes.
Can you comment? I mean, we're seeing things being discussed about the tipping point and how much land use change or deforestation, will change basically the Amazon forest into a dry savanna, and we've heard 40%, and recently Carlos Nobre and Tom Lovejoy published an article talking about 25% deforestation will lead to this tipping point. And clearly the kind of research you're doing is very relevant to perhaps understanding when that tipping point is going to happen. Do you have any comment about that?
So tipping point, I mean, that's not an easy answer. But even with very small deforestation, what we see is that cloud types are changing. So if we have deforested spot, that tends to induce mesoscale circulation, and we tend to have shallow clouds during the dry season. So that type of change we see even with a fairly small amount of deforestation. Tipping point, there are two aspects. One, I mean, you probably heard about this, Peter Cox study on Amazon dieback. And from that study, the dieback started even without any deforestation. So if we pump up lots and lots of CO2, and with lots of CO2, that changes the sea surface temperature type in the Pacific, and that may induce Amazon dieback. So that's one possibility in terms of how land surface would influence the critical point. So I don't have the number, and I'm not sure how well we can actually do that. But what I can say is that, as you saw from my work, the time that the precipitation is most dependent on evapotranspiration is early onset. So what is important is the plants, and the soil keep water until the end of the dry season. And that's very important for agriculture, etc. But if we convert that area into agricultural land, that region might not have enough water until the end of the dry season. So yeah, so in that sense, conversion into agriculture would be really bad for moisture recycling. But exactly how much, I don't have a very good number.
Numbers are hard to come up with. Yes?
Do you have numbers about the secondary forest?
You mean like in my model?
Yeah, the forest that's formed after deforestation.
Mm-hmm. So secondary forests, they have different root structure and sometimes slightly different characteristics. That kind of change, that kind of difference is not yet into this model. So as I said, what is important is the rooting depth and so on. And it seems to me that early succession, I may not be actually correct, but early succession seems to have less deep roots. But maybe other people who know much more about plants can have answer.
It's right. The way water deficit will affect different types of vegetation. It's not the same seedlings, young seedlings, as mature trees, young secondary forest, mid secondary forest, etc. Okay, we have to end here, and thank you so much, Jan.